To all our guests currently waiting to experience Cali Coaster Adventure's latest thrill, for your safety, we ask that you please stay off those air gates. Loading gates opening, stand back, stand clear. Welcome. Please watch your step as you enter the ride vehicle at this time. Please secure all loose articles. Leave them in the cubbies if you do not have a non-rider to leave them with. There are no loose articles allowed aboard this ride. Once you're seated, go ahead and secure those restraints. Keep your head back. Sit upright. Hold on tight. Clear 1, clear 2, all clear. Dispatch, enjoy your ride.
Punkvid619, aka Cali Coaster, aka Punkvid Music on the YouTubes. I'm back at you with another video. This one's going to be more towards what I'm trying to post, the content that I want to create. I did a couple videos over the last couple weeks that addressed a situation that occurred at Universal's Epic Universe. If you have not had a chance to check out those videos, please do, because some of those situations are going to be readdressed in this video, as it does have a lot to do with what the topic is for today. And that topic is how to behave at a theme park and how to be the model theme park guest. The do's, don'ts, and oh God, what are you doing of theme park behavior that has become prevalent throughout the community. And when I say community, I don't just mean the influencers and the community bloggers and vloggers, and I'm just talking about society, I guess, in general, because a lot of this applies to just being a good person and just doing what is right. So if you haven't seen me before, I'm very politically outspoken in the sense that I believe that for a society to function as it's supposed to, in everybody's best interest, we just need to look out for each other, be good to each other, treat each other with kindness, treat each other with respect, treat places with respect, just respect all around. And that's something that I feel fell to the wayside, especially coming out of the shutdowns of the pandemic, which I'm not going to get into because that is a whole nother can of worms that I do not want to open, because everybody's got their own opinions on how that was handled. So if you comment about that specifically down below, your comment will be deleted. And if it is not a positive comment, or I feel that you're just trying to be a troll and offensive, I will block you from the channel. Make no mistake about that. Like I said, my content is about respect for yourself, respect about other people, and respect about other people's property, which includes my love, theme parks, roller coasters, things of the like. So let's get into it. So I know here in the United States, the peak theme park travel season has ended, as we are now moving into October of 2025. However, there are a lot of major parks that still have events going on through the rest of the year. It may not be a normal full operation schedule like you would see during the summer, but there are options and attractions and offerings still available at a lot of parks through the end of the year. With Halloween coming up right around the corner, Christmas isn't going to be too far behind. A lot of parks like to stay open to try to offer things for people to do for the holidays, as well as earn some extra income for the parks themselves. Try to get a little bit of that fourth quarter money coming in that is normally reserved for the retail and shopping industries. So let's say you are going to visit a theme park tomorrow and you're just now tuning in. Please stay tuned, because there's some information that I want to provide you with, some tips and tricks on how to be the model theme park guest, the type of guest that theme parks want to have coming back time and time again. First and foremost, it doesn't matter the time of year. It does not matter the weather. It does not matter the season. You need to keep your body lubricated. And by lubricated, I mean water. Think of your body as the engine of a car. Your joints, your muscles, your nerves, they all need something to keep them moving fluidly, literally. So while a lot of theme park offerings, especially during special events and holidays, have specialty drinks that they like to offer, please keep in mind that most of those contain sugars, they contain starches, they contain things that go against your body's mechanics. So to keep your body moving fluidly, yes, you can enjoy those, you can indulge in them, but make sure that you are providing your body with what it needs. No, I'm not talking about Brondo, the electrolytes. No, no. I'm talking about plain, simple water. Your body has a biological makeup that requires water coming through its system constantly to keep those joints and muscles working and moving the way that they should. And one of the main reasons that it is imperative that you're drinking water throughout your stay is because your body is constantly moving. That motion, the flexing, the bending, the stretching, it kind of pulls the water into areas to keep those moving, but it depletes the rest of your body from that resource. So you need to make sure that you're intaking water. Plus, even though it may be 40, 50 degrees outside, you're probably still going to be sweating. Adrenaline causes you to sweat. Even if you can't feel it, your body's going to be pushing out water in the form of perspiration throughout your stay, especially if you're lugging around a lot of gear. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later about the lugging around your gear. But please enjoy the beverages, have a good time, enjoy the seasonal offerings. That's why they're there. But make sure that you are constantly putting water back into your body, because water is something that your body cannot produce on its own. It's a resource that it loses throughout the day, especially the more that you move. Now you maybe thinking, well, I'm at a theme park, I'm going to be sitting down on rides most of the time. Wrong. You're probably going to be spending 90% of your time walking around the park, exploring, standing in queue lines, walking to the attractions. And I guarantee by the end of your day, it doesn't matter what park you're at. If you spend an entire day at a park, you're probably going to be putting in at least 20,000 steps, because that was my average when I was theme parking, up until recently when I moved away from where I don't have a park to go to anymore. But that's my problem, not yours. But those steps, each one of those steps, your body is using water. And that water, once it's gone unless you're putting it back into your system. Now, your kidneys, your liver, they all need to be filtering through water to help filter out all the bad stuff that you're putting in. And a lot of you probably already know what it's like to experience the theme park hangover the next morning. Now, you don't have to be drinking alcoholic beverages to experience this. The theme park hangover simply is a result of you not drinking enough water during your stay. Plain and simple. Because I guarantee you, once you get up and moving after a few hours, drinking your fluids, drinking your water, getting those electrolytes and everything else back into your system, you're going to start feeling a lot better. The muscle aches are going to start going away. That small headache's going to go away. That dry mouth feeling is going to go away. And it's going to be like that never happened. But to prevent that from happening in the first place, make sure you are drinking plenty of water throughout your day. And a lot of theme parks have made it a lot easier by installing refillable bottle stations. And a lot of theme parks now, even though they have security checkpoints that say no outside food, drink, whatever, they will allow you to bring a refillable bottle as long as it's empty when you get through the security check. And if you're not sure if the park will allow that, do me a favor, do yourself excuse me, do yourself a favor, call them ahead of time. A lot of parks would prefer you call ahead of time than assume something is going to be allowed. And this brings me to my second point. If you're not sure if your outfit will be appropriate for the day, make sure that you check ahead of time. Do not assume that if you show up at Disneyland wearing booty shorts and a sports bra, that they'll let you through the front gate, especially those in Florida, because this time of year in Florida, it's still pretty warm. It's always humid. You're going to want to be comfortable, but you also want to make sure that you are dressing for the environment that you're experiencing. Disneyland, I'm not going to say it's a kids park because it's not. Disneyland is for everybody. Disney World is for everybody. Every Disney park was set up to be a comfortable, fun experience for people of all ages. Now, with that comes the fact that there are a lot of adults that are coined themselves or claim to be Disney adults, and that's fine. You love Disney. I love Disney. I'm not saying that I believe in the fairy tale endings and everything else. I just love what Disney does, the experiences that they bring, the storytelling, how they transform you from a world that sucks into a world that's fun and exciting. To me, that's what Disney is. And I'm in my 40s, so I grew up going to Disney. I will always love the Disney parks. The Disney Corporation, however, that's a whole nother story. I may or may not do a video about that, but I have videos that I've done before where I bring to light the negative of a corporate owned theme park environment that's designed to bring us out of reality, because the truth of it is they really don't when you look at the bare bones of it. But that's the Disney now, not the Disney that was created. And it's the Disney that Walt Disney created himself that I fell in love with. I was fortunate enough to grow up going to Disney in the late 80s and early 90s when Disneyland to me was at its peak. That was the pinnacle of the Walt Disney experience. But going back to what this video is about, keep in mind that there are a lot of families and there are children, and that is what the park was designed for. So they do have a strict dress code, and they do enforce that dress code. And 99.9% of the time, if you are not following that dress code, you will find out as soon as you get to that security check before you even scan your ticket or pass through that turnstile. They will stop you and tell you you need to either change or you can't come in. Now, I know there's videos that have come out in the past where guests would be allowed in, but they would be given a voucher to exchange whatever article of clothing is not in line with their dress code for something that is. And because somebody decided to post about it on social media, and people purposely would show up at the parks out of dress code just so they can get that free piece of Disney merch, they stopped doing that. So if you're showing up expecting to get that voucher, know now that that will not happen anymore. Now, there may be exceptions to where things can happen in the park in which you are either no longer in dress code or an accident happens and an item of clothing needs to be changed for hygienic or whatever reason. They may make exceptions, but just showing up knowing that you're going to get dress coded will not guarantee you a free replacement item of clothing as a souvenir for you to wear and take home on Disney's dollar. Just not going to happen anymore. So get that idea out of your mind. Number 3, while in the parks, please understand that you are essentially in somebody else's house. You may have paid admission to get into their house, but you are still in somebody's house. That's why you are referred to as a guest. You do not own the right to be able to change the game whenever you see fit for you personally. There are certain rules and certain policies that have been put in place, not just for you, but for everybody that enters that house of the mouse. And I keep throwing Disney as an example because Disney is the most visited theme park chain brand that there is in the world. And most people can associate with that. And But this does apply to every theme park, whether it be a Six Flags park, which is, I was going to say Cedar Fair, but they're pretty much the same thing now. Premier Parks, they're owned by Six Flags now. Universal, Merlin Entertainment, which Legoland and a few other smaller parks are owned by Merlin Entertainment, which I think that's still a thing. I can't remember. I can't keep up because companies and corporations keep absorbing these smaller parks and rebranding them, whatever, but it doesn't matter. Understand that when you're entering somebody else's property, it is no longer public property. It does not matter if you paid for admission, if you were granted an admission, you are still entering a private place of business. And every private place of business has its own set of rules. And if you cannot follow those rules, you legally and should be escorted off the property and asked not to come back. And there are a lot of companies that will go through great lengths to make sure that if you are asked not to come back, that you do not come back. And those rules may be as simple as no line jumping, no spitting, no cussing, no horseplay, no running. Running. That's another one. Yes, you're excited. You're off to have a good time. You want to get to that first attraction first, but understand that running is not allowed in any of these theme parks or amusement parks. And if you injure yourself because you were running, that is on you. That is not the park's problem. That is a you problem because it is in their code of conduct. It is outlined in all park policies. Do not run. And I guarantee if you were running, at least 2 or 3 cast or staff members told you to stop running and you just chose to ignore them. So if you slip, fall, hurt yourself, whatever injury occurs from that, that is on you because you broke their rule and they are well within their right if you want to bring up legal action for them to ban you for life because you could not follow their rules. So make sure that you are following all park rules, procedures. They are there for your safety and for your enjoyment and for the safety of everybody else and everybody else's enjoyment. And this includes filming stupid videos where you're doing jumping jacks, somersaults, whatever else, especially in main crowded midways. If you hurt somebody else, you are liable for hurting them because you broke the park rules. So do not cry, do not whine, do not create videos on TikTok asking, oh, why was I kicked out? You broke the rules. That's why. Line jumping. This is a big one because line jumping affects so many people and it affects the park as well. I understand Disney. I'm going to go back to Disney World and Disneyland as prime examples because there are a lot of small children that go to these parks with their families. Your child has a bathroom emergency. You've been waiting in line for Peter Pan for almost an hour. You've still got probably another 25 minutes before you guys are going to board. Your kid needs a bathroom now. That's fine. Let a cast member know. Speak with other guests in line before you take it upon yourself to just run out and assume that you can get back to your place in line. I guarantee if it is a bathroom emergency and you let people know ahead of time, they will not hesitate because I would rather your child run out with you to the bathroom and come back to your place in line than find that little spot in the corner and just drop trout and do their business right there because that does happen too. That does happen. And that is another problem. I'm probably not going to address it any further than that, but that is another problem. Guests telling their children to just use the bathroom wherever they are because they're afraid of losing their place in line. If you still have 1 or 2 family members waiting in line while you take your child to the restroom, I guarantee that is not going to be a problem because it doesn't change anything. However, if you, a single person, are holding your spot in line for the rest of your family for whatever reason, they're off riding other rides. I've had that complaint as a ride operator where I had to kick a whole family out because their family member, single family member, was standing in line, got up to the front of the ride of the queue where they were boarding, brought 7 or 8 family members up. I told them they all had to go to the back of the line. One of the family members said, oh, well, I was saving their place. Well, they were on this ride and that. I told him, that is a you problem. Everybody here had to wait in line instead of doing other rides. Why do you think you're special? You're not. Get to the back of the line, or I'm going to call security. I actually ended up calling security, and they escorted the entire family out of the park. I'm not saying that I wasn't jumping up and down for joy inside, because literally I was, because as a park guest myself, yes, as a ride operator, I was also a park guest too. I love going to theme parks. I hate waiting in line, but I understand that that is part of what comes with going to a park, especially a popular, busy one. During certain times of the year, lines can get long, but we all have to deal with that. Why should you be any different and think that it's okay for you to stand in line while your children are offering on several different attractions and you're just holding their place? That's not fair to anybody else. Everybody else, I guarantee, in line waiting would love to be able to do that. And that's kind of how the Fast Pass and Flash and other line systems were created as part of a program to help eliminate the number of actual people waiting in line. They created virtual queues where you got a return time and you can experience other offerings during that time. But the park that I was working at the time, one, did not offer that, and two, they did not have that option. So they were just trying to play the system and make everybody else's experience worse because they felt that they were more important. So that doesn't fly. Same thing goes if you're waiting in line and you've got friends, family, whatever, buying food, doing whatever else, and you were the only one standing in line and then they come up and join you. No. If they were in line with you, and again, talk to other guests waiting in line, let the cast member, staff member, attendant know that they were leaving their line for a few minutes. Enough time to either get a bottle of water or use the bathroom. Those are the only two situations where you should be leaving the line and re-entering, because those are necessities. And it would be wrong to deny you or any member of your party the right to water and restroom facilities. Anything else you can do before or after you get in line. Try doing any of that at the DMV. See how far that gets you. Just saying. Now, another thing that will help you with your trip, and I kind of touched up on it and went in depth a little bit already, dressing for your trip. Now, especially this time of year, it doesn't matter what part of the country or world you're in, unless you're in the southern hemisphere and it's starting to warm up down there. You are probably going to want to bring multiple changes of clothes, not just because you might go on water attractions and you need to change your clothes. You might have an accident, need to change your clothes. The weather will be changing throughout the day. It is that time of year where it may start out cool in the morning, warm up in the afternoon. And believe me, when you're in a theme park, you're walking around, especially with the tarmac and other materials that are used for the ground that you're standing on, it does start to heat up. That may start to get to you. And then as soon as that sun goes down and it's no longer radiating to the ground back up, it's going to cool down again. So you're probably going to pack extra clothes. You're going to want, you may be like me and you bring your own waters because you like to be wasteful and have your own waters, and change of shoes possibly, because your feet are going to start to get tired, especially if you're at a Disney park and you're marathoning it for the full day from rope drop to park close. You're looking at least 12 hours on your feet walking around. Yes, you're sitting on attractions, but an hour and a half standing in line versus 3 or 4 minutes sitting on the attraction. Do the math. You're on your feet a lot more than you probably realize. So you're probably going to want to bring a change of clothes, especially shoes, socks, pants, jackets, and all that starts to take up space. Now, I'm not saying that lockers are not a money grabbing scheme, because, you have to pay for them. So they're obviously trying to earn extra income on necessities, things that they know guests are going to need. However, that $12 to $15 that you spend on that locker for an entire day, mind you, most parks, it's $12 to $15 for a large to jumbo size locker for your entire stay. It is well worth that money, especially because I'm a photographer. I like to bring my camera gear, which means I've got a couple bags. Camera gear does get heavy. I loved having access to a locker. It didn't matter if I had to walk an extra like 15 minutes back to the front of the park to get the lockers to change out my camera gear for whatever photography I was trying to do at the time. Because I always kept a small bag with me with, my camera body and maybe one or two small lenses. But especially towards the end of the day, I want to get those nice nighttime shots. So I'm obviously going to have a tripod that's going to stay in the locker pretty much the entire day because I really only needed it after the sun went down, and I wanted to get those long exposure, especially during the fireworks, during the holidays at Disneyland for those small world classic holiday overlay shots, the Haunted Mansion holiday overlay shots at night. There were a couple times where I did some Phantasmic shots at night. They didn't come out the greatest because I didn't have a tripod, because I didn't want my gear to impede the experience of other guests. And that's another thing. If you're going to film, you're going to photograph at the parks, make sure that you are keeping your gear at a level that does not interfere with other guests' experiences, especially on attractions, during parades, during fireworks. I've filmed many shows with phones like this that I'm recording on right now from about chest to chin height and gotten the same angles as I would have doing this. So you just need to know how to angle your camera and your gear properly to where you're the only one that can see it during that performance or during that ride. Dim the screen on your phone if you're going to be filming on-ride videos at Disney, because certain attractions, it is safe to do it because you're not moving very fast, and if it falls, it's going to land in the ride vehicle, probably in your lap or at your feet, without damaging yourself, the ride vehicle, or the experience for other people. But just make sure that you have your screen dimmed low enough to where it's not going to blast this bright light and ruin the experience for everybody else. And that brings me to probably the most important and final tip that I can give you. I may do a part 2 if I realize that there's things that I left out, but do not, I repeat, do not pull out your phone on extreme thrill attractions, especially those where the vehicles cross over midways, where the forces can have your phone fly out over midways, over other guests, over any area where if it lands, it will cause injury or damage to the park, the guests, and other properties. Because if you do, you will be liable. I'm not talking just the replacement of your phone. No. That'd be too easy. If you injure another guest, you are responsible for those guest injuries. If you damage a part of the park, you're responsible for replacing that. And if you get your phone back, because a lot of times you are not able to get your phone back because it may land in an area that is unauthorized. It may land in an area where a cast member finds it and brings it to security. And if you do have to ask for your phone back, security will be handing it back to you as they walk you out that exit gate and tell you, do not come back. You broke their rule. It may not explicitly say, do not record on this ride, but operators will tell you, do not have your phone. Park policies say you must follow all safety protocols. And part of those safety protocols are not creating situations that endanger other guests. When you have your phone out on a ride, it is unsecured. It doesn't matter how heavy you think your grip is, how good you think that whatever is holding your phone that you're holding on to. No, things fail, especially on thrill attractions that have unexpected forces. And if it's your first time on that attraction, you do not know how to brace or prepare for those transitions. And that causes your phone to fall. I've seen people's phones fall out from their pockets. They thought they were secure. Unless your pocket has zippers, unless you have a pouch that you're allowed to bring on that has zippers or snaps or some other securing mechanism. If it's a pocket just like this, where I can just slide my hand in and out, your phone is going to slide in and out. So just be prepared. A lot of parks now have lockers set up in front of the attractions all over the park, asking you to leave your loose articles in there. Now, a lot of attractions also still provide storage cubbies up at the loading platform, but that does not mean that that is an option. No, that is a last resort. If you didn't put them in a locker or leave them with the non-rider, you need to leave them in those storage compartments. If you bring it on the ride with you, something happens, you are liable. And it's not just the replacement of your phone or your screen that you're liable for. You're liable for any damage, injury, or other that can happen because your loose article came loose. You know, I'm going to bring up one more thing because this kind of takes off from that. If you're on an attraction and your item becomes loose and lands, especially in a restricted area, you know those restricted areas because they have big signs and fencing that say authorized personnel only. If you are retrieving a lost item or a fallen item, you are not authorized personnel. You do not have clearance to enter that area. And unfortunately, there are situations that have been reported where guests thought that they could enter those areas, whether it to be to retrieve an item or whatever reason, where they got seriously injured and or killed because of that bad judgment call. Your car keys came off on Batman the Ride and landed in an unauthorized area. I'm sorry, you have to wait until park operations have ceased and the ride is shut down for the night for personnel to enter that area to retrieve the item for you. If they have time. That's the thing. They're not required to go retrieve your item. You were told to secure that item. You were told to leave it in a cubby, leave it with a non-rider. You chose to bring it with you. That is on you. That is a you problem, not a park or other guest problem. You thought your hat was going to be secure while you went on Goliath and it flew off and landed under the helix leading into the final turn to the brake run at Magic Mountain. You do not have the authority to ask the park to close the ride. You do have the right to wait until they're able to retrieve it for you, which may or may not be when it's convenient for you. It's when it's convenient for them because you were told loose articles are not allowed on the ride and to leave them in the cubby on the side with the non-rider or in a locker. You chose not to do any of those. Therefore, it is a you problem, not a park or other guest problem. The reason I say other guest problem is because 99% of rides, in order for them to cease operations, would cause a delay of up to, if not more, than an hour to get operations for that attraction back up and running again, depending on the nature of the attraction. Now, most roller coasters, especially, have spots that are called low zones or infields, which those are those fenced off areas that say restricted, authorized personnel only, that you're not allowed to enter as a regular guest. Even operators and maintenance during operations, they cannot enter them either. They have to wait for the coaster to cycle out all guests. Once all the trains are emptied, they have to park them in certain locations because there's only certain spots where you can park a coaster train and have it still be able to function and return normal operations that same day without further delays. After that, power needs to be shut down. I'm not talking about just shutting down the lift, shutting down. No. Every mechanical part of the coaster is attached to the same power source, which means you have to do a full power down. So you're shutting down the mechanical parts of the ride, the software of the ride, which most rides are run by computers, so you have to power that down as well. Because if you don't power that down properly, it may not come back up the way it's supposed to. So that takes a few minutes. Once that's done, you have to ensure that every ride vehicle is in fact clear. The entire ride area is clear. There are no more moving parts. Then you get to go through and walk around. And the reason I say an hour or more is because it depends on where your item lands. You may think it landed in a certain spot, but it's way over on the other side of the infield from where you thought. So park staff are looking all over the place. That can take a while. So let's say they found your item. So they have to go back through and double check that every access gate is not only closed, but properly locked before they can resume operations, because you want to make sure that somebody that does not think that they can enter that area while the ride is currently operating, which, depending on the size of the coaster in the park, you're talking about 7 to 12 access gates that could potentially be unlocked. So you need to make sure that every one of those gets locked back up. Once that's done, you go back up to the station. You have to check to make sure that everybody that was involved in the attraction, not just the people that were looking, but everybody that was at the attraction operating it, is accounted for, which can take some time. Once that's done, everybody checks back in. You can then turn the power back onto the ride. You may think it's over. It's not. There are a couple more steps that need to be done. One, you need to wait for the computer PLC system to reboot, which can take a few minutes depending on the attraction. And two, you need to run a couple cycles to make sure the attraction is running the way it's supposed to after being powered back up. Yeah, it's a long process, which is why parks will tell you you need to wait until the end of the day when the attraction and the park are closed down for them to retrieve that item. Because as frustrating as it is for you to wait for them to retrieve your item, imagine the frustration if you were a guest waiting to board that attraction. Yeah, you're one guest going to guest services to complain that you lost an item. You're talking about dozens to maybe hundreds of guests complaining that the attraction was unavailable most of the day because of your situation. So, yeah, wait until the end of the day. If they're able to get to it, they're able to get to it. If it's not that day, it may be another day. You need to be patient because that's a you problem. It's affecting one person right now, you, where you're trying to create a situation that affects everybody at the park, operators, maintenance, and the guests. So do better. Anyway, that's all I got for you now. Hope this helps. Hope it gave you a little bit of insight as to why parks do things the way that they do. If you are planning on going to a park, and I hope you do because they are a lot of fun, it is worth it. You may spend a little bit of money, but I guarantee the memories are going to last a lot longer than that dollar would in your bank account. So until next time, deuces. Take care of yourselves and each other.